Happy draft week, everybody. It's now time for my final mock draft, number 5 of the season. We're going a full 3 rounds, and it's all brought to you by our friends over at Legendary GM. All right, as I always do it, I'm playing GM for all 32 NFL teams. So you're welcome. I made your team better in my mock draft. You're all going to be thrilled with this, and let me know in the comments below how thrilled you are. Give us the old thumbs up, showing that you like it. But let's get into it. I'm going to try to fly through the entire 3 rounds as quickly as possible. Starting at the top, Kyler Murray, the top player on the PFF draft board. We think this is a no-brainer for the Arizona Cardinals. They have a chance to upgrade at the quarterback position. It's no knock on Josh Rosen, but Kyler Murray is number 1 on our draft board for a reason, the highest graded passer and rushing quarterback in the nation last year. So Kyler Murray, the clear number 1. Number 2, the San Francisco 49ers getting Nick Bosa. Fits a need, fits the value because he's the number 2 player on the PFF draft board. Draft the best players at positions of value. That works out for the 49ers. They need that great edge defender like Bosa, who has the highest win rate among Power 5 edge defenders over the last 2 years. At number 3, had some debate here for the New York Jets. We have Quinnen Williams and Josh Allen at 3 and 4 on our draft board. I flipped it only because the Jets have such a massive need on the edge. An edge defender has a slight positional value edge over interior D-line. Josh Allen had the highest pass rush grade in the nation last year at 94.3. And the fact that the Jets were looking at Anthony Barr, a guy who's kind of a hybrid pass rusher, can play linebacker. I think Greg Williams in that scheme. They have a plan for a player like Josh Allen who's very similar to Anthony Barr. So I think that's a great fit for the Jets there, which means the Oakland Raiders at number 4 hit the jackpot. They get Quinnen Williams, the highest graded interior defensive lineman in the nation last year, and the highest graded defensive lineman we've ever seen here at PFF dating back to 2014. That's right, every single snap graded, and he had a 96 overall grade, the highest pass rush grade in the nation at 92.5, highest run defense grade. They might need edge defenders, but bear with me here. We don't need to fill needs yet. Just grab the best player, Quinnen Williams. He'll be a disruptor on the interior. We'll circle back to edge a little bit later in the draft for the Raiders. Now, number 5 has always been a tough pick for me with the Tampa Bay Bucks because I think we see these top 4 as your closest thing to blue chip players in this draft. And the Bucks, unless one of these guys fall, seem to be missing out a little bit. But they're moving to a man coverage heavy scheme. They need cornerbacks. They don't cover all that well. Greedy Williams we have as the number 1 man coverage corner in the entire draft. We think it's a great fit there. And even though a lot of people are linking them to Devin White, his LSU teammate, Williams at a better, more valuable position, I think is the good fit there. And then you can circle back to linebacker a little bit later in the draft. So Tampa Bay getting Greedy Williams at 5. At number 6, the New York Giants, everybody says they need a quarterback. A lot of rumors that it's Daniel Jones. We still like Dwayne Haskins as the number 2 quarterback in this entire draft. He's worth a top 10 pick. You have to take shots at the quarterback position, and we think Dwayne Haskins is the better shot compared to Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, and some of the others in this draft. Haskins, fantastic from a clean pocket, must improve under pressure, must improve when he moves off the spot. It's time to move on from Eli Manning, or at least see what the next guy is going to look like. We think Dwayne Haskins is the best fit there at 6 for the Giants. At number 7, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They make out really well here. Jonah Williams is the number 1 offensive tackle on our draft board. A great fit for them. He can step right in and play right tackle in that offense. I think they really want to come out of this draft with a right tackle and a wide receiver. We'll see if they do it in round 2. But Jonah Williams, our number 1 tackle for a reason. So a good fit there at 7. The Detroit Lions, I had been giving them Greedy Williams, the man corner who went at number 5. He's obviously off the board. I'm not going to squeeze a corner in there just to do it, but Brian Burns, the explosive edge defender, will complement Trey Flowers, who they just signed extremely well. So now they've got the big guys in the middle who can stop the run. Burns off the edge, Trey Flowers off the edge. That Detroit defense is really starting to come together. We get to number 9 here. This is where Bills fans always love me. All right, I got to say, hear me out, Bills fans. Byron Murphy, this is one of those reasons you draft the best players. You don't necessarily fill needs. The Bills play as much zone coverage as any team in the entire NFL. Byron Murphy's the best zone corner in this draft. The fit is absolutely perfect. He's the number 1 corner on our draft board. But again, scheme matters. There's a reason why Greedy Williams went above Byron Murphy because of scheme. But you put him in Buffalo opposite Tre'Davious White. I don't care that Kevin Johnson's there. I don't care that Levi Wallace is there. Byron Murphy can be an excellent cornerback opposite Tre'Davious White, a perfect scheme fit, and then Buffalo, they can circle back and get their playmakers or offensive line later in the draft. But I think the value is too much there, and the scheme fit is too great. Byron Murphy to Buffalo. At number 10, one of our favorite players in the draft, Jerry Tillery, going to the Denver Broncos. They need interior disruption. They need a whole lot on both sides of the ball. This is one of those, hey, let's take one of the best players on the draft board right now. Tillery's a fit there. He tied Quinnen Williams with a 92.5 pass rush grade last year to lead the entire nation. As we get to number 11, the Cincinnati Bengals, Devin White, one of the best fits in the draft, coverage linebacker. They couldn't cover anybody in the middle of the field. That fits well there. I thought number 5 was a little bit high for Devin White, but a really nice fit here for the Bengals at 11. The Green Bay Packers get Ed Oliver. That's right, Tillery went above Ed Oliver. We have them switched on the draft board. We have Tillery higher than Oliver on the draft board, but that's nice for Green Bay, putting Oliver opposite Mike Daniels, learn how to be that undersized disruptor. Still have Kenny Clark at nose tackle. Now Green Bay is really building a great defensive line there. At number 13, the Miami Dolphins, Jawan Taylor, one of our top offensive tackles. He'll step right in and play right tackle and replace Jawan James. Miami still in this multiple-year rebuilding process. Taylor's going to be a good fit there. The Atlanta Falcons were an interesting pick at 14. I wasn't expecting to go linebacker here, but I think Devin Bush, putting him with Deion Jones, they've just added so much speed to that defense over the last few years. Bush just adds to that. We saw how bad the defense was when Deion Jones got hurt, so it can't hurt to have more speed there. Bush is a better blitzer than Deion Jones as well. 4.4 speed that shows up. He can be this blitz threat, but he also has the coverage ability similar to Jones. So now Atlanta really shoring up the middle of that defense from a coverage standpoint. Washington at 15, another tough one to select. They can go quarterback. I don't love Drew Lock. I don't love Daniel Jones at this point in the draft. So I'm not going to force a quarterback. I'm not going to force any position there, but they could always use help at cornerback. We love DeAndre Baker, who's number 15 on our draft board, so the value matches up extremely well there. He could play man, he could play zone. So I like that pick for Washington there. At 16, need and value match up really well for the Carolina Panthers. Andre Dillard maybe ends up as the best pass-protecting tackle in the draft. I think he'll compete with Jonah Williams for that title. 3 straight years of 90-plus pass rush grades at Washington State. So we like that pick at 16. And then at 17, the New York Giants are back on the board. We're going A.J. Brown at wide receiver. Even though DK Metcalf is the highest receiver on our draft board, again, it's about fit. It's about taking A.J. Brown, who's a better high-volume receiver. They have to replace a ton of targets with Odell Beckham being traded. Haskins is great at the short and intermediate level. That's where A.J. Brown shines. He can win in the slot. He can win outside. So we're matching A.J. Brown with Dwayne Haskins, not necessarily just grabbing the top player on the draft board. We'll explain Metcalf in a minute. Minnesota Vikings, they don't have to pick offensive line, but if one of those 4 offensive tackles drops, this is the 4th offensive tackle, Dalton Reisner, makes sense for them. He could play literally any position on the offensive line. His freshman year started at center for Kansas State, right tackle the last 3 years, has given up fewer than 30 pressures in his 4 years at Kansas State. So he has a chance to shore up the right tackle or guard spot in Minnesota. And then there's DK Metcalf going to Tennessee. I like this fit because he could be the stretch the field deep threat, 2.8 yards per route run. He was actually productive on a per route basis, even though he didn't have all the catches. But you pair him with Corey Davis, who's more of a possession receiver. DK's stretching the field. You can't press him. He has to be accounted for by the opposing defense. That's going to open up Corey Davis, who I predicted was going to be a 1,000 reception career guy. So that's going to help Corey Davis get all of his 100 reception seasons with DK Metcalf stealing some of the coverage. Then we get to the Pittsburgh Steelers at 20. Steelers fans may not want to force a whole bunch of wide receivers in this draft, but I think that's the way for them to win. Put the ball in Roethlisberger's hands, let him make plays. Arcega-Whiteside from Stanford is the best contested catch receiver in the entire NFL. He needs an aggressive quarterback to get him the ball. That's what Big Ben is. Arcega-Whiteside has good releases. He's got pretty good speed. And like I said, the body control and physicality to win at the catch point. I think you throw him in there with Juju and you've just got a ton of value. They might circle back and get even more wide receivers, but that's Pittsburgh's game. Spread the field and win through the air. Seattle at number 21, a fit that was tough because I don't have a perfect position fit as far as need goes, other than, hey, let's get some playmakers. And TJ Hawkinson, who's getting top 10 hype, the Iowa tight end, Don't love him in the top 10, but I do love him here at 21. All-around tight end that can run block, stretch the seam. He's the best route runner. Just continue to add weapons for Russell Wilson, help him justify that new big contract. Baltimore at 22, they can go a whole bunch of different ways, but I think the fit in the front 7, Chase Winovich coming off the edge, 2 straight years of 90-plus PFF grades. They need to replace Terrell Suggs, Zadarius Smith. They need all sorts of playmakers off the edge. I think Winovich works well for them there. Houston Texans, everybody wants them to take an offensive lineman. Again, if they miss out on those top 4 offensive tackles, the 5th offensive tackle that has a first-round grade for us is Cody Ford. He could play guard. I'd give him a shot at tackle. He still probably ends up as guard. Mauling run blocker that fits their power scheme. Most importantly, he gave a fewer than 10 pressures last year at Oklahoma, so they need to shore up that pass protection in Houston. And then the Raiders, let's hit on their next 2 picks. 24, we're going Marquise Brown, the speed wide receiver from Oklahoma. I know they brought in Tyrell Williams. They already brought in Antonio Brown, but if you ease him in as a slot receiver, now you've got Derek Carr with multiple weapons all over the place. That's how you win in today's NFL. 3 wide receivers are starters, speed with Tyrell Williams, speed with Marquise Brown. Antonio Brown, one of the best all-around receivers in the NFL. That's how you maximize Derek Carr's ability. So I like Brown to Oakland right there. And here's where they get their edge defender at 27, Clelin Ferrell from Clemson. Don't love him, but he did improve 89 overall grade or pass rush grade last year. A big step forward, wins with his hands, wins with length. So now, if you're Oakland, best player on the board at 4 was Quinnen Williams. We got a speed wide receiver in Marquise Brown, and there's your edge defender, Clelin Ferrell, and we're still going to flip around at number 35 and have a high volume pick. This can be an absolutely game-changing draft for Oakland, and of course I like the picks. I made them, so we think that they've really changed their franchise in this one. Going back to number 25, the Philadelphia Eagles, no glaring needs, but grab impact players at valuable positions. Darnell Savage, the safety from Maryland, is one of my favorite players in the entire draft. Incredible coverage ability, sub 4.4 speed that shows up on the field. He explodes through the catch point. Get him in there, potentially replacing Rodney McLeod, but just get him playing anywhere. He could play a little bit in the slot. He could play free safety. I think he's more of an uber strong safety with range that could play in and around the line of scrimmage, play a robber role, but I think Savage adds a ton of playmaking ability at the next level. Indianapolis Colts, this is going to be a defensive-heavy draft for them. Christian Wilkins is good value at number 26 here. Excellent run stopper from Clemson, could play up and down the line of scrimmage, improved as a pass rusher last year. We already said number 27, Oakland. The Chargers at 28, they're going to go safety as well. When we talk about scheme fits, and that's what this whole draft is about, fitting these players into these systems. Nasir Adderley, a perfect free safety to complement Derwin James. They've now got one of the best young safety duos in the NFL. Adderley's ball skills make him a perfect free safety as the Chargers continue to add a ton of talent on the defensive side of the ball. Then we get to Kansas City at 29. Thank you, NFL. We have breaking news. The Seattle Seahawks and the Kansas City Chiefs have executed a trade. Frank Clark now going from Seattle to Kansas City in exchange for the Chiefs' first-round pick. So I have to make some changes to my mock draft. We're going to do everything on the fly here with breaking news. So here's what's going to happen. At 29, we now have Seattle taking over the pick. The old pick for Kansas City was David Long, which, by the way, Chiefs, I think you're better off with David Long maybe than Frank Clark at that price. Got to cover on the back end. But here's what's going to happen. Seattle is going to handle one of their big needs, which is cornerback. So David Long is not the best fit for them for what they like to do from a size perspective. We're going to push David Long down the board. Amani Oruwariye from Penn State is coming up right here. Oruwariye. All right, we're right on the fly there. He's got the size, length, movement skills. Reminds of a young Aqib Talib. So Oruwariye now to Seattle, moves in to the first round at number 29. And then at number 30, Green Bay's back on the clock. They already got Ed Oliver. Now they're going to get Hakeem Butler. We have him as an early second-round type of player, but we don't care if he sneaks into the back of the first round. Butler needs, much like Arcega-Whiteside, a quarterback that's going to throw the ball into contested situations. Let him use his frame. That's what Aaron Rodgers does. So Aaron Rodgers with Hakeem Butler, that maximizes his 6'5" frame, his physicality at the catch point, not the shiftiest route runner in and out of cuts, but Aaron Rodgers can get the most out of him. That's why I don't mind taking him there at 30 if I'm Green Bay. And then rounding out the first round, you talk about fits. Garrett Bradbury, the best zone blocking interior offensive lineman in the entire draft. The Rams have a major need at center. Bradbury, perfect fit for their outside zone scheme. That's what he ran at NC State. And then New England, we know they're in the quarterback market. Will Greer's our number 3 quarterback. You secure him in the first round. You get that extra year, the 5th-year option on Greer. He's accurate at the right places, up to 20 yards, had the highest accuracy percentage in the entire draft class. He's excellent throwing the ball down the field. There are some ugly plays on film for Greer, but he's strong in the right areas and maybe the best developmental option in the draft. So that fits for New England. And again, they secure the 5th-year option, getting him in the first round. We'll get to rounds 2 and 3 in a second, right after these words from our friends over at Legendary GM. Quick break to tell you about our friends over at Legendary GM. The Pro Football Draft is coming up on April 25th, a special time for fans and a frustrating time for many hardcore fans who know the draft could have gone better for their team. Did you ever question your general manager's draft selections? Have you ever said, I could have drafted better than this? Introducing Legendary GM, the first ever platform that allows you to draft for any pro football team. Draft against your GM and draft against your friends to see who knows best. Legendary GM is simple, fun, and will give you bragging rights for years to come. Unlike traditional fantasy football, Legendary GM is easy to set up and manage. Draft players your team really needs and get rewarded when your players perform during the season. Finally, there's an alternative to traditional fantasy football. So what are you waiting for? Prove you know better than the pros, the experts, and your friends. Go to legendarygm.com now to sign up. And if you use the promo code PFF, you can invite up to 9 additional friends to play for free until the start of the regular season of the NFL. That's legendarygm.com. All right, let's fly through rounds 2 and 3. Arizona's back up at the top of the second round. They're going to get Andy Isabella, one of the best deep threats in the draft. You pair him with Kyler Murray, and we start getting some weapons in that Arizona offense. I know they need to attack offensive line. They still can do that later. Isabella is going to be a great compliment to Kyler's ability to throw the ball down the field. At number 34, the Indianapolis Colts get Justin Lane. We talk about fits, zone corner, zone scheme. Now they've got Christian Wilkins and Justin Lane added to that defense. Maybe more to come for the Colts. Oakland now their 4th pick, and now that Seattle Seahawks, Kansas City Chiefs breaking news affects my second round as well. We have the Oakland Raiders, who were initially taking Amani Oruwariye. He's off the board now at 29 to the Seattle Seahawks, but David Long is still on the board, and he's a good fit to replace Oruwariye. So we're going D. Long from Michigan, the cornerback with excellent man coverage skills. Also played a lot of cover 2 there. He could fit into that Oakland scheme. They still get a cornerback, maybe not as good of a fit as Oruwariye there, but David Long adds to the back end in Oakland. Pair him with Garyon Conley as they try to revamp that secondary. And now Oakland, I think they still have won the draft with David Long and all those other playmakers that they added in the first round. Julian Love to the San Francisco 49ers. An excellent zone corner, especially in the slot. I think he can play the Desmond King role. King plays for the Los Angeles Chargers. Same scheme. He plays in the slot. Julian Love's skill set matches really well there. The 49ers couldn't cover anybody last year. Now they have Nick Bosa rushing the passer, D. Ford rushing the passer. Julian Love, maybe more corners to come for San Francisco as well. New York Giants, I think they're in full rebuild mode. Dwayne Haskins has been drafted. A.J. Brown's been drafted. Now Jeffrey Simmons has the ACL injury, still might return this year, but we're talking about a top 10 caliber player, and I think if the Giants truly embrace the rebuild, Simmons is a good fit there. You can wait in case you miss a little bit of the season from him. Top 10 caliber player means you're getting 3 first-round players now if you're the New York Giants, so you're welcome, Giants fans. Jacksonville Jaguars, I said that they got an offensive tackle first time around, Jonah Williams. Here's your receiver, Deebo Samuel. Shifty, can win in the slot, can win outside. Now you have a weapon for Nick Foles. Tampa Bay, they're going to take Dexter Lawrence. I think it's just a good value fit. We have him as a late first rounder. The big 340-pound nose tackle could push the pocket, stop the run. Now he's there with Greedy Williams as you continue to revamp that defense in Tampa Bay. Buffalo Bills, I said, be patient. You're going to get some offensive players. You got Byron Murphy the first time around. Greg Little, one of the best developmental tackles in this entire draft class. He could be one of those top 3 pass protectors when it's all said and done. So certainly good value there at number 40 as the Bills continue to try to add to that offensive line. I know they already did some work in free agency, but they're not done yet with Little. Now, Drew Lock, this is where he comes off the board. You talk about Denver. Joe Flacco's not going to keep me from drafting a quarterback. I don't like Drew Lock at number 10. I don't like him in the first round. I like him here at number 41. There's a lot of question marks to his game. But when you talk about the upside of quarterbacks potentially hitting at 41 in the second round, Drew Lock is a potential good fit there for Denver. Add him to Jerry Tillery. Cincinnati Bengals. Now, this is where Montez Sweat's coming off the board for us. Everybody else has him as a top 10 to 15 overall pick. We see him as a second-round talent because he's been good, not great in college, but you get him at 42. Hope that upside, hope that athleticism translates to upside. So that's good value there for Montez Sweat, and you pair him with Devin White. Continue to add to that defense for the Bengals. Detroit Lions, they got Brian Burns off the edge in round 1. Now we got N'Keal Harry, more of a possession receiver, but Matthew Stafford needs more weapons as Golden Tate moved on. Stafford's going to be at his best when he has 3 guys to throw to. Harry adds a different skill set to that offense in Detroit. Green Bay now, Noah Fant. They've added Hakeem Butler on the offense, the big-bodied receiver. Now they add speed tight end Noah Fant. We don't see him necessarily as a first-round player. Like him more in this range in the second round. He's a straight-line guy, but you talk about, again, maximizing his skill set. Aaron Rodgers can do it. He can legitimately stretch the seam from the slot or from an inline tight end position. Same thing as Montez Sweat. Rashawn Gary's a second-round value for us, not a first-round player. We like him here. You hope that he develops and lives up to that physical skill set. Atlanta's still looking for edge rushers. He's well worth a shot in the 45 range for Atlanta there. And then you pair him, of course, with in the first round, Atlanta got Devin Bush. So now you've got a ton of athleticism added to the defense, and both guys coming from Michigan. Washington, again, best player, Elgton Jenkins. We have a first-round grade on him. They got DeAndre Baker in the first round. Elgton Jenkins can play center, can play guard, just continue to add bodies on that offensive line in Washington. Carolina Panthers, they got a tackle, Andre Dillard in the first round. Taylor Rapp, just one of those good, solid, all-around safeties. Can play in the box, can play in the slot. Carolina has not had the best safety situation in recent years. Rapp's going to help them there. And we talk about the Miami Dolphins continuing to add to their offensive line. Remember back in round 1, Jawan Taylor at tackle. Now we've got Chris Lindstrom from Boston College, former tackle, pass protector at guard. Guard has been one of the weakest positions in the entire NFL for the Dolphins the last couple of years, so there's a good fit there. Cleveland Browns are on the board for the first time. They got Denzel Ward last year, still have some questions in coverage at safety and at corner, so they get a guy that can play both. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson from Florida, slot corner / free safety. Doesn't matter where you put him, he's going to add some versatility on the back end. Cleveland has to continue to improve their coverage ability because they put a lot of emphasis on the D-line already in free agency. Minnesota Vikings backup Zach Allen, Boston College edge defender, just really good value for them after adding Dalton Risner in the first round. Tennessee Titans, love this pick for them. Kalen Saunders, 320-pound nose tackle who can move, kind of be the understudy to Jarrell Casey there. They've been needing to get younger on that defensive line for a while. Saunders fits the bill out of Western Illinois. Tavon Coney, this is where Pittsburgh gets potentially their coverage linebacker. We might be higher on Coney than most, but he has excellent coverage and zone ability, zone skills. Doesn't have the same athleticism as the top 2 linebackers, the Devons, White and Bush, but Coney is always in the right place, and we know what Pittsburgh has not been able to do from a coverage standpoint since Ryan Shazier has been injured. Now, finally, we've got a running back off the board. Josh Jacobs going to the Philadelphia Eagles. This is about as high as we'd want to take a running back, and I wouldn't want to take a running back unless they're going to an offense that has all the other offensive weapons in place. That's what Philadelphia has. Deep threat to Deshaun Jackson, 2 tight ends, possession receiver in Alshon Jeffrey, Nelson Aguilar out of the slot. Now you add Josh Jacobs, the best receiving running back in the draft. They're going to be very difficult to defend, and it's easier to justify running back value right there at 53. Houston's going to attack the offensive line again. Remember, they got Cody Ford. We said he could start at tackle, maybe move to guard. Now you have a tackle. And Max Sharping, 3 excellent years at Northern Illinois, actually 4 excellent years where he didn't give up a ton of pressures, pretty good in the run game. He could be a starting offensive tackle almost right away, especially on that Houston offensive line. So they're continuing to get strong at positions of need, and then they double up with Juan Thornhill at safety on the back-to-back picks there. Another position that they just continue to need to attack in Houston. Thornhill has cornerback skills, played a little bit of corner at Virginia, but we think he's excellent in a free safety role. New England up again. Anthony Nelson. This is like the classic New England Belichick type of player, a power edge defender. In the Trey Flowers type of mold, Flowers has moved on. Michael Bennett is in, but Anthony Nelson has that ability at 6'7" to compress and push the pocket the way New England likes to on the edge. Philadelphia back up again, and they need that Jason Peters replacement in the future. Mayatala is there, but Chuma Edoga has pass blocking potential. He was excellent in that part of his game at USC. Not the best run blocker in the world, but we love the value for him there as a developmental offensive tackle. So Philadelphia is adding some key pieces so far in this draft. Dallas is up. First time, their first pick, number 58 overall. They're playing that cover 1, cover 3 scheme. They want that true free safety. That's what Deontay Thompson is. A true free safety, reminds of Jarius Byrd. If you put him back there, excellent ball skills, excellent feel for the game, must cut down on his missed tackles again. But put him in the right role, one of the best free safeties in the draft. Indianapolis is back up again, and we need to recap what they've done. Christian Wilkins right here. Okay, we've got an interior defensive lineman. We've got one of the better zone corners in the entire draft. Now we've got one of the best zone players right here in Amani Hooker. He could play in the slot. He could play too high free safety. You pair him with the other hooker, Malik, and you've got one of the best safety duos in the entire NFL. Amani and Justin Lane adding a ton of coverage ability where the Colts really need it. And again, they still might not be done as we get to the third round. We get to the Los Angeles Chargers. Yeldy Froholt, one of our favorite guards out of Arkansas, handled Quinnen Williams extremely well last year. Big position of need for the Chargers. Pair him with Nasir Adderley. They've got 2 scheme fits for them there. And then Kansas City, they already got David Long in the first round, cornerback out of Michigan. Rock Ya-Sin, we like his value more in the late second, early third round, not so much first round where he's getting some of the hype. Continue to add corners in Kansas City. You have to cover. Rock Ya-Sin adds another valuable component with David Long. New Orleans has their first pick here at 62. And I know they're in win now mode, but I'm still playing GM. I'm still playing for now and the future. Daniel Jones' value here is really, really good. I know it's not going to help this year, but this is where I would take him. Not in the first round, late second into the third. Sit him behind Drew Brees, and you hope to get the best out of him down the road. So I don't play win now mode. I play what's the best pick for the team. I think Daniel Jones is the guy there for New Orleans. Blake Cashman to Kansas City, now a third coverage player, this time at linebacker. He's the number 4 linebacker on our draft board. Excellent in coverage, short arms, affects him in the run game. It doesn't matter. They need guys that can cover at all levels of the field. Cashman adds that at linebacker. And then rounding out round 2, Terry McLaurin, the wide receiver out of Ohio State, fills a big need for the New England Patriots. He's got speed, knows how to get open, had an excellent Senior Bowl. That now gives the Patriots a need at edge filled with Anthony Nelson, Terry McLaurin, a need at wide receiver, and of course, the developmental quarterback of the future, Will Grier, in round 1. All right, quick break, and we'll get into the third round where we really round out your team's unbelievable 3-round mock draft. All right, round 3 time. Let's fly right through it. Arizona's back up at the top. Here's where they attack offensive line. Titus Howard from Alabama State, excellent developmental tackle. Love the value there at 65 overall. Pittsburgh hits the edge defender need that they always seem to have every single year. We love Max Crosby from Eastern Michigan and a nice fit for their scheme. Then we got San Francisco back up. They're going corner again because they still need to cover people. Jamel Dean fits their scheme because of his size and physicality. He can develop as an outside corner, while again back here we got Julian Love, who's a better fit as a slot corner in their system. They're doing everything they can on the back end to improve the worst coverage unit in the NFL last season. New York Jets, they go to the offensive line with their second pick, Caleb McGarry. I use the word developmental offensive tackle quite a bit, but that's what this class is really filled with in the late second and third round. McGarry, 6'8" out of Washington, has some skills to develop at the next level. Jacksonville's going to double up on wide receiver. Kelvin Harmon now to pair with Deebo Samuel, different styled receivers. And if they're going to maximize Nick Foles' contract, they got to do it with playmakers and offensive line. That's what they're attacking here in this draft. Tampa Bay is going back to the defense. LJ Collier, add more edge rush. TCU player that's had an excellent career, fits their scheme extremely well. Denver Broncos, cornerback has started to get worse and worse on that roster the last couple of years. This is good value for Sean Bunting out of Central Michigan here. Very athletic corner that can play multiple schemes. Then we talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. They've been looking for offensive line for quite a while, but the value here for Yodny Kajus makes sense because he got injured. He's more of a second-round type of player. He got injured this offseason, so you could steal him there as they try to develop him as a future left or right tackle at the next level. New England adds another playmaker, one of my favorite tight ends in the draft, Jay Sternberger out of Texas A&M. He can stretch the seam, excellent ball skills. So now you have a tight end and a wide receiver as weapons there in New England in this draft. Another tight end off the board. Like I said, with Buffalo, be patient with Byron Murphy here, and then offensive tackle Greg Little here, and then you got Irv Smith, the move tight end with excellent route running ability, a guy that can get open for Josh Allen. Now you've added a tight end who can get open, Cole Beasley, a slot receiver who can get open, John Brown who can stretch the field a little bit. Buffalo starting to really rebuild their team, and they added all that despite adding the best zone coverage cornerback in the entire draft. That's right, Bills fans. Stick with me. We've got a plan here to rebuild that team. Green Bay's back up again. Drew Tranquill, the number 5 linebacker on our board. Add a little bit of coverage ability into that front 7. One of my favorite receivers in the draft now goes to Washington. They didn't have to force a wide receiver pick early on, but if they get Deontay Johnson and his incredible route running ability out of Toledo, that's a big steal here at number 76. Carolina has to really get younger on the defensive line. This is about where we like Ja'Kai Polite, the edge defender out of Florida, who had first-round hype at some point, but absolutely was terrible at the Combine and his pro day. But we like him here. He's got the burst off the edge. If he keeps his weight up, he could be a steal. Miami Dolphins continue to add in the trenches. Draymond Jones, undersized pass rusher, but a 90-plus pass rush grade last season. Atlanta Falcons, here's a running back off the board again, David Montgomery. I think it's a good fit for Atlanta as they start to move to their next running back of the future, David Montgomery. Unbelievable at forcing missed tackles, used to running behind a poor offensive line, so he'll make the most of his run blocking no matter what. And then the Cleveland Browns back on the board. We already got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, corner/safety. Now they get Isaiah Johnson out of Houston, a freak long corner. So now they're taking a couple stabs at finding the guy opposite Denzel Ward or finding a guy that can play in the back end, shore up that back 7, and Cleveland has a serious chance to make a move if they hit on those 2 picks. Minnesota's going back to the offensive line. Nate Davis out of Charlotte. So now they have a guard. They added Dalton Reisner. Keep throwing darts at that offensive line, Vikings. And you got to find, because you got to maximize what you do with Kirk Cousins there. Tennessee's going back to the defensive line. It's Charles Omenihu. He's got some length to play the edge, to play on the interior. Add him to Kalen Saunders, and the Titans have added a ton now to that front 7 so far. Now Pittsburgh going wide receiver again. I think the value is good here because of Emmanuel Hall's field stretching ability. He's a different style receiver from J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Emmanuel Hall's best bet would be looking like Martavis Bryant did a couple years ago for the Steelers. And if he can do that, you're taking advantage of Ben Roethlisberger's ability to throw the ball down the field. Arcega-Whiteside making those contested catches. Juju, keep him in the slot where he's been great. Take a little bit of the pressure off him as the new number 1. That's how you can win in Pittsburgh, because it's all about the pass game. That's why you've taken 2 wide receivers in this draft. Seattle's up for their 2nd pick. The Seattle Seahawks and Kansas City Chiefs have screwed up my 3rd round as well, but here's what we're going to do with it. They flipped picks. Number 84 is now going to Kansas City, but good news, I think the fit right there, Tim Harris, the Virginia cornerback with his size and length, the fact that Kansas City, I still think, needs to attack the cornerback situation, add him to Rock Ya-Sin, even though they have Frank Clark rushing the passer now, but it's all about coverage on the back end for the Chiefs. So Tim Harris remains the pick there. He happens to be going to Kansas City now. This pick now at 92, no longer the Chiefs. This is going to be Seattle. I don't like Darrell Henderson for them there. The guy that I like now after they've gotten rid of Frank Clark is Ben Banigou. He was going to Jacksonville at 98. So we're going to put Banigou right here, and that's going to be Seattle's pick at number 92. That leaves me with nobody for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm not sure any of these guys in between are going to be taking running back Darrell Henderson, but Jacksonville adding Henderson, the dynamic big play threat, and another offensive weapon in this draft to help out Nick Foles. A guy outside zone scheme, Henderson's great. Out in space, he's excellent. The Jaguars have now added a ton of offensive playmakers in this 3-round mock. Baltimore Ravens. Paris Campbell, he's getting first-round hype, the Ohio State wide receiver, but he's still more of a gimmicky type of player. He's the shovel pass guy, short drags, and if you look at how Baltimore's building their offense around the run game, around gimmicky type stuff like that, they can maximize Campbell's skill set. I like him here. I don't like him as a traditional wide receiver, but I think with Lamar Jackson, what you can do from a creative run game standpoint, and then getting the ball in Paris Campbell's hands like a souped-up Tavon Austin, I think there's a really nice fit there in Baltimore. Houston Texans now, they're going to go running back Miles Sanders, one of the better all-around backs in the draft. They've attacked offensive line. Sanders adds some running back depth for them at 86. We like his value coming off the board in this range. Chicago, the Bears are on the board for the first time. I don't think they need to attack a specific position. If the right edge defender, if the right corner's there, I think it makes sense. The right wide receivers here at this point in Miles Boykin. I know they attacked the wide receiver position quite a bit over the last couple of years, but Boykin might need a year or two to develop, and then he steps in as a top target for Mitch Trubisky. I think that's the way to continue Trubisky's development in Chicago. Detroit Lions back on the board. Last time they got N'Keal Harry, big possession receiver. Josh Oliver, one of my favorite tight ends in the draft, contested catch guy, big, long frame. Continue to add weapons for Matthew Stafford. Talked about the Colts. This is their fourth defensive player now, their second cornerback to come off the board. Justin Lane, they already got out of Michigan State, but Jawan Williams, he adds another big, long corner out of Vanderbilt. And again, it's a scheme fit, a zone type of player. You add him to Pierre Desir, you add him to Amani Hooker, Malik Hooker. Now you're starting to win in the right spots if you're the Indianapolis Colts. Andrew Luck moving the offense through the air, and the defense that can finally stop a pass game if some of these guys hit. Dallas Cowboys back on the board. They already got Deontay Thompson at safety, but Riley Ridley, one of the better route-running receivers, and that's what Dak Prescott really needs there. They've got Amari Cooper, you've got Michael Gallup. Just need a bunch of guys that can get open there, because everybody needs the guys that can get open, but Dak's accuracy really takes a huge jump when he doesn't have to throw into tight windows. That's why Riley Ridley's a good fit there for the Cowboys. Then we get to Los Angeles Chargers. Ryan Finley at quarterback. We like him in the third round. We like him as a developmental player, and I think all of the teams that have the older quarterbacks, the Chargers, the Saints, who already got Daniel Jones, the Patriots already got Will Grier. Finley's a good developmental guy to sit behind Phillip Rivers. I know they brought in Tyrod Taylor. They don't need to be tied to him. Finley has starter potential, but he's still more of a long-term backup and a nice fit there at 91. New York Jets go back to the offensive line. They already got a tackle in Caleb McGarry earlier in the first round. Now, potential future starting center Eric McCoy out of Texas A&M. Don't like McCoy much higher than this, but really like him at 93. Then the Rams, they attack another need with Voshawn Joseph, a guy that can patrol the middle at linebacker edge, and a linebacker, one of those needs over the last couple of years for the Rams, so they attack linebacker right here. And then rounding it all out, the Giants go back to defense. Jimmy Moreland, one of the best slot corners in the entire draft. Washington Redskins get a chase and run linebacker, and Ben Burke-Kirven out of Washington. Continue to have the best players there, Washington. It's a rebuild mode there. New England's going to double up at the tight end position. Jay Sternberger and Caleb Wilson. Wilson's more of a straight line speed type of guy. We know what New England likes to do as far as multiple formations, creating mismatches. Wilson's at his best in the mismatch game and using his straight line speed. Here's where the Rams attack their edge need, just like they attacked linebacker Ronheen Bingham. Has that designated pass rusher potential, the highest win rate in the nation over the last 2 years as far as just straight up how often did you win as a pass rusher, including a killer spin move against Jonah Williams from Alabama. Carolina continues to add depth up front. Amon Watts out of Arkansas. They need youth on that defensive line. That's their second defensive lineman in the draft. The Patriots round out round 3 with developmental offensive tackle Bobby Evans. He has experience at left and right tackle. Actually came into the season with a little bit more buzz than Cody Ford, who went in the first round. So if you can get Bobby Evans right here at 101, it's a good value pick there. And then rounding out round 3, Mack Wilson, Alabama linebacker. He was getting some first-round hype, but he's still more of a third-round type of player. Just take a stab at replacing C.J. Mosley, former Alabama linebacker, in the middle of that Ravens defense. We like Wilson's value here, not so much in the first or second round. So there you have it. It's the 3-round mock draft, all brought to you by our friends over at Legendary GM. Of course, let us know in the comments below how much you appreciate how much I improved your team in the 3-round mock.